Welcome to Code Access Security and Security Transparent Model video series. In this whole video series, we'll try to understand what is SAS and some concepts around SAS like evidence, permission sets, code groups, etc. And then we'll also try to understand that what are the changes that is made to the code access security that is SAS in 4.0. So first, let's try to understand that what exactly is code access security. What's the meaning of code access security? Code access security is nothing but it's a security model which grants or denies permission to your assembly or exe depending on evidences. Evidences like from where the code has come from. Has it come from internet, or has it come from a valid publisher, etc., etc. So in order to understand that, basically how does SAS detect what kind of permissions can be allocated to assembly, we need to understand three important concepts: evidence, permission set, and code groups. Now, before your .NET exe or your .NET assembly starts executing, the code access security starts collecting evidences about the assembly. In other words, it probes, saying that, okay, this assembly or this exe, who is the publisher of this exe? From where has this exe come from? Has it come from the internet, or is it compiled on the same computer? Who is the publisher of the assembly? What is the originator of this DLL or the exe? Does it have strong names? So in other words, it starts collecting evidence values for that assembly, and depending on the evidence values, it starts allocating permissions. Now these permissions are allocated via permission set. Permission set is nothing but it is combination of permission. So permission set and evidence values, they define something called as code groups. So what are code groups? Code groups are nothing but they are a collection of permissions which are allocated to a DLL depending on evidence values. So probably you can have a local code group, you can have an internet code group, you can have an intranet code group. So each of these code groups are nothing but they are logical grouping of permissions depending on evidence values. So now that we have understood, okay, what is a permission set, a code group, and evidence values, let's try to understand that what happens when your assembly or exe starts executing. So the first thing, before even the assembly executes, what happens is basically the evidence is gathered about the assembly. So basically it says, okay, who is the publisher, what is the site from where this assembly has come from, URL, etc. Now, depending on the evidence values, a code group is assigned to this assembly. Okay. And then the code group security is applied, and then the assembly is run, the assembly or exe is run inside that security boundary. Now, in order to understand this, what we'll do is we'll do a small sample demonstration, where we'll create where we have a small exe, and we'll see that how we can restrict that exe, using code access security. So here's a simple exe which I have downloaded from the internet. If I run this exe, basically this exe pops up a window, and there's a small button over there, will open up a Windows dialog box. And if you click on that, it opens up a nice browse folder box, which basically helps me to browse a file. Now what I want is basically, because it is coming from the internet, I don't trust this exe. So what I want is I want to apply code access security on this exe and control basically what this exe can do. So probably what I would like to do is I would like to run this exe. Till here everything is fine, but I don't allow, I don't want him to allow, and I don't want him to browse my folders. I don't want him to open this dialog box. So let's see how code access security can help us achieve this. In order to apply code access security on this exe which you have downloaded from the internet, what you need to do is basically go to your Visual Studio command prompt. Now there's a nice exe given by Microsoft called as SASPOL. The SASPOL exe basically helps you to apply code access security on your DLL. So in other words, it helps you to basically create permission sets. It basically helps you to connect the permission sets with the evidence values and create code groups, etc. Now the problem with the saspol.exe is that the command line is quite cryptic. So in order to ease that off, basically what you can do is you can install this .NET Framework configuration tool. The .NET Framework configuration tool is nothing but it's a nice UI which sits on the top of this saspol.exe and helps you to basically apply code access security. So what we'll do is for this tutorial we'll use this configuration tool rather than going through the command prompt. So here's our exe what we have, and on this exe basically we want to apply code access security in terms of he can execute the program, but he cannot go and pop up this dialog box. So let's see that how we can do the same by using the configuration tool. The first thing what I would like to understand is that basically what kind of rights currently that assembly has, or that DLL has, or the exe has. So what I'll do is, in order to understand that what kind of rights that assembly has, I'll go and click on evaluate assembly. I'll quickly go to that file, that exe, that's Windows browse files. I'll click on that, and I'd like to know that, what kind of group does this belong to. So I can see that basically it belongs to the all code group. Now, if you look at the all code group, right, which is there over here, it has full permissions. Okay, if you see the permission set is full trust, and the full trust permission has almost everything in the world. So in other words, basically this exe currently has a full access on my computer. So what I'll do is, let me go and first create a permission set. So let me say no dialog box permission set. This permission set will not allow dialog boxes to be popped up. And you can see that basically I have list of permissions here. So what I want is, I want him to execute it. I want the exe to execute. So that's what I want. I also want him to display the user interface. All right. But nothing more than this. I don't want him to pop up the file dialog box. So that's something I've kept, aloof. So in other words, he cannot do any of this. He cannot use reflection. He cannot basically access my MSM queue. He cannot pop up a dialog box. He cannot create a file IO, etc., etc. So let me finish it. So you can see that there is a new permission set created here called as no dialog. Now the next thing, what I'll do is, basically I know that my exe is running under the all code group. So what I'll do is, I'll go to the all code group and I will allocate him the permission set of no dialog, which I've recently created. So if you remember, the no dialog permission set, doesn't have the dialog box permission set. So you can see that basically at this moment it will allow only to execute, that is security, and it will only allow to show the user interfaces. So I'll just say apply here. Now let's go to our exe and let's run it. So if I run this, there's my exe which is running. Now if I click on the view, the dialog box, right? If you click on the button of opening up the dialog box, you can see that there's an error popped up. We are saying that the file dialog permission box is not allowed to open. So if I again go and change this back to full trust, right? And if I again execute this, now I will be able to successfully again open my file dialog box. So you can see that how my code access security basically ensures that a particular assembly or a particular exe can run under a specific security boundary. So I hope that you have enjoyed this whole SAS session, where basically we looked into evidence, permission sets, code groups, we saw a sample demo, etc. Now said and done that, there are a couple of problems with SAS, okay, or I'll say rather, there are major problems with SAS. The first thing is, the code access security is not easy. You have seen that in the small demo which I was showing, right? All those cryptic steps of creating code groups and permissions, etc., everything, that will eat your energy completely. The second thing is, if I want to move this exe or the assembly to a different computer, then I need to rework on the whole SAS thing again. So I need to go and install the configuration tool, take each of the DLLs and assign security. That's a whole kind of rework again. Now the worst part of the SAS doesn't work on unmanaged code. So in other words, if you're downloading an exe, from an internet which is an unmanaged code, then SAS has no control over that. So what they've done in .NET 4.0, they have basically revamped this whole code access security, or I'll say rather they have built from scratch. And there's a new security model over there which is called as a security transparent model. So the code access security is still there. I mean, it's not been completely removed, but it's just deprecated. And the main focus is on the security transparent model. So what we'll do is, in the coming up video, we'll try to understand that what is basically security transparent model and how we can implement the same in .NET 4.0. So I hope that you're enjoying this video series, and see you in the coming up video. Thanks.